Uh,
So we are being streamed live on YouTube. So we're gonna go PG from here on out. Dude, thank you so much, Sidney, for coming out and making me smile this morning, dude. You're hilarious. I love you, bro. It's been I don't even know how many years, good 7, 8 years
yeah,
that we've known each other, that we've worked together. That yeah, Sydney's just provided us all with a wealth of knowledge, which is greatly appreciated, and has come into our office so many times, and now he's here with us on the interweb, throwing down his knowledge. He's an amazing wealth of knowledge, you guys, and I'll provide you guys with his contact information afterwards so that you can always get in touch with him if you have any kind of needs for any of your clients. Maybe there's a lot of places around the country that do appraisals in advance. That a seller will take a look at it just to make sure that they're not going to have any issues down the road, right? So that may be something that when the market does shift that they might need to start doing. And right here is the man that you wanted to be doing it with. So I'm gonna take it away, Sydney. I am gonna jump in and ask you questions as if I don't know the answers, and sometimes I don't. But you, my friend, please educate us. Tell us about appraisals. Tell us what you do on a day-to-day basis, man. You got a lot going on.
what do I do? I guess I'm a firefighter because I put out fires, similar to what Dana's scenario was. You're right. I do a lot of pre-list appraisals. Even if it's cash deals, people want to know: am I getting a deal? Am I not? Am I overpaying? And look, if it's a tract development, you don't need me. But if it's very specific and there's a lot of unique amenities or characteristics of a property, that's when it gets a little bit tough. I just noticed just right now my shirt is matching my ceiling, which is pretty awesome.
Well,
And so
Sydney, and
yeah,
right off the bat, man, you say like if you have a track, like you may not even need it. But I remember calling you when I was buying my house because
this is
I do live in a smaller tract with like 31 homes, and I'm like, bro, the per square foot is nowhere near compared to what they're doing up the street, and they're
yeah,
half the size of me. And you laid it out there, like
yeah,
it
that's
really
true.
doesn't have as much to do with the size of the home per square foot. The bigger you get, it's not as relevant as the smaller homes that are in the
Yeah,
neighborhood.
this is true.
So
Typically, like a larger home will have a smaller price per square foot. In the same market area with a smaller home having a larger price per square foot. And you're right, maybe a tract development you do need because then it becomes what's happening between market A, market B, neighborhood A, neighborhood B. And this is what I want to teach you guys today, kind of shed some light into what I do and how I think real estate agents should start thinking like appraisers, especially when they're going into a listing appointment. I think what I want people to kind of understand today and get out of this meeting is setting expectations, not just for the buyers, but also for the sellers, right? I don't know how long everyone's been in real estate, but I want to say maybe 7 years ago, there was only the MLS, right? And so all the information came from you. And now you have all these online platforms, you have the Zillows, the Redfins. So the moment you knock on that door for your listing presentation, they're telling you where they want you to put that price. They're just saying, hey, this is what I want you to list my price for. And then, they want you to figure out how you're going to market that, right? And so there's always this back and forth because they're completely out to lunch. They're like, well, Zillow said my property's worth this, and you're thinking in your head, there's no way you're going to get that, right? I think by leading with data and understanding how the data is analyzed by an appraiser will help you hopefully empower you guys to make them understand here's how the appraiser is going to look at these things. Here's where the conversation should be started, and here's how we should set expectations for you so that you're not expecting $1 million list price when in actuality it may be selling at 925, right? So if you guys want, I could just jump right in.
yeah,
All right, let me
go right
share
ahead, my
my
friend.
content here. Give me a second here, share screen. And then I want you to tell me if you see the screen that is this what you guys see appraisal process? Do you still see me or you see appraisal process? What's important?
I still see you.
Still see my face.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I
Share
think you should be
content
able to
screen.
share it now. I apologize. I
Start
don't know if
broadcast. There he is. I
you
don't think I
were
started the
hosting.
broadcast. So
There you go.
Yep.
okay, cool. Okay, so appraisal process, what's important? I kind of want to start with the basics, right? And this is comp guidelines, and Dana, I might be saying your name a lot because you had a scenario in regards to what you felt your comps were and what was out there. So when it comes to standard comp guidelines, when we say size is 20%, right? So we're going, if we have a 2,000 square foot house, appraisers are only going to look at comps between 1,600 square feet and 2,400 square feet. That's 20%. Now, if you have a comp that even if it's sold on the same street, and let's say it's 2,402, it's only 2 square feet off. It's not that that's not a good comparable. It's just that we're not going to see it because it's over 20%. This is why you should meet the appraiser at the property. When it comes to condominiums, we go a little bit smaller because typically condos are smaller. They're not as big as single family homes. So if you have like a 700 square foot condo, we're not really going to go 20% because the lenders want you to go a little bit smaller as well. So we're looking at data between 10, 15% of that, 600 square foot, 800 square foot condo, whatever that may be. So just really pay attention to that. Distance wise, we can go up to a mile. Now, I don't know where you guys are marketing or farming your properties, but think about Kensington, right? If you're in Kensington, you had a property in Kensington, a mile will get you into Normal Heights. It may even get you into parts of North Park, right? So think about that. We say a mile radius, but really I want you to stay within that subdivision. Just like when Ed's property, when he was buying a home, he's like, hey, Sidney, this other neighborhood is so different than mine. Yes, it's within a mile, but his subdivision was different from the other subdivision. So really kind of keep it at home first before you start stretching it out. And I think sometimes, realtors will look at comps that will benefit the seller or benefit their scenario, but it's not necessarily the most similar property and not necessarily in the exact same subdivision. And so maybe the appraiser is looking at that going, yeah, I see that comp, but that subdivision is selling at 3% higher. And so I'll use that comp, but I have to subtract that subdivision 3% because over time it's showing that it's selling at a higher price, right? The same thing is if you guys are in markets where, let's say there hasn't been a sale for 12 months or 18 months, you have to go back to the last time that property sold in that 18 months ago, 12 months ago, whatever it is, and then look at that competing market, okay, and see what they were selling for 12 or 18 months ago. And was it par with the subject neighborhood or not? If it was higher, then I can use a more recent sale in, let's say, market B, but I still have to make that same percentage adjustment negative, bringing it down because it showed the last time that the subject property sold or there's a sale in that neighborhood that it was inferior to market B. If this is confusing, this is great, hire me, right? But I'm trying to give you guys little concepts that you can kind of put in your mind to understand how you go about, like pulling out the data or the adjustment factor that you'll need in order to make the proper adjustment that will make sense for your neighborhood. Ed, I see you want to ask something.
Yeah, I definitely want to ask something, especially from my perspective, because when we disagree with you, right, as to what you came out with from that value, right? The only thing that we have a leg to stand on are the facts and the statistics, not our feelings, right? And this right here, you guys, just right off the bat, is one of the most critical things that you guys can learn about how an appraiser values these properties and what to look for, because this is the only thing that we can rebut. Like, if you choose the wrong comps, they're gonna just knock it down and say, sorry, we can't use those comps.
Hey guys, just to further that, if you send me 5 comps in a rebuttal, and look, we don't get a lot of rebuttals just because we're that good, but if you guys send me 5 comps in a rebuttal, and comp number 1 is 1,000 square feet off of the subject property, I'm going to assume the other 4 are the same, right? I mean, I don't have the ego where there's been times where I've changed my value for sure. I didn't see the comp, right? Maybe it wasn't specifically written out. The MLS description wasn't that great. So, when I do keyword search in the MLS, I'm looking for these things like remodeled home, full gut, whatever it is, studio apartment, converted garage, whatever that's going on with that property, I'm trying to find like properties. Right. And typically we're pulling our comp data the night before or maybe in the day of, typically the night before because we're setting up our day. So if I missed the comp, I missed the comp. Oh, I didn't see it. I'll include that in my valuation, explain that to the lender and move on. Right. But yeah, if you guys are not knowing these guidelines and then you're submitting comp data, it's like in different markets, you're like, well, this one is a model match, but it's 5 miles away. I'm like, same builder. I'm like, well, yeah, that's great. But what's happening 5 miles away? That's not happening here, right? So we have to understand that. And then when we go to months back, it's up to 6 months back. And I say up to 6 months back. But think about this. If you're signing let's say everyone's signing a listing of agreement today, right? And you're looking at a comp that sold 4 months ago. Oh, it's perfect. It's been 6 months. That's a great comp 4 months ago. But then it takes you 30 days to get that property, let's call it market ready, right? Then it takes you another 30 days to get it in contract, right? Tracking. And then within that 17-day contingency period, I come out, one of my peers comes out, and then you're like, hey, here's the comps. And you're showing me a comp that sold now almost 7 months ago. But that's what you base your property on. At the time you base your sale on, or that listing price on, it was 4 months ago. But by the time I come out, it's 6, 7 months later. And again, it's beyond our guidelines, so we're not going to use it. So if you stay within that 60 days, that's perfect, because by the time I come out, it's only 4 months old, that comp, and it's not 7 months old. So pay attention to that as well. Okay. So this is comparable guidelines. I call this, let's say this is the standard tract development guideline, right? And then we have this, what I call competitive sale guidelines. Now we're going maybe custom homes. We're going to homes with the tennis court, the ocean view, on the canyon rim, completely tricked out, all these fancy things, right? So let me get your minds wrapped around what competitive guideline is. Recently, I appraised a property on the boardwalk, Mission Beach, right? Literally on the boardwalk. Okay. If I couldn't find a recent sale on the boardwalk, I can go clear up to Carlsbad, which also has a boardwalk, and pull my data from Carlsbad. And now what you're thinking, I know it's 35 miles separated, but what I want to know is, how does a property on the boardwalk, how is that treated versus a home that's still on like waterfront, but is facing the alley? What is that difference in value? And then I could apply that same methodology in Mission Beach. And then what I would do is look at locational adjustments. What is predominant values coastal Mission Beach, predominant values coastal Carlsbad, and then make a location adjustment percentage-wise based on predominant values in market A and market B. Okay, those are things that we can do as an appraisers. I don't expect you guys to do it every time. You know, you're like, look, I'm best at marketing this property. That's my job. But this is where you want to get ahead of it. You know, sometimes if you're like, I have a listing appointment, it's a very unique property, we may need to have a conversation, or whichever appraiser you guys like to use, and utilize them as like, almost like, you know, how are you going to separate yourself from the other three people they're going to interview, right? You have to show value. So that may be a way to show an additional value, saying, hey, look, I'm not just coming off this, you know, coming out of this out of my head. Here's what I did. Here's the steps that I've taken to ensure that this is the proper listing price that we should go for based on these kind of competitive sale guidelines. So it works. It can work to your advantage. And it can also work like this. If you had a property that's on, let's say it's on Texas in North Park, right? Busy street. I also have to find another property on a busy street. We call that an external obsolescence. It's a negative impact to that property, right? But if you're in Little Italy on Kettner, that's no longer a negative impact. People want to be on Kettner, right? So you have to know, based on your market, is it a negative impact to be on a busy street, or is it a positive impact to be on a busy street, right? Depending on single family, condominium, you have to know those things. So anytime appraisers, we have to bracket everything. Okay, so anytime you have a positive or a negative feature, we need to bracket that. We need to show market acceptance for that positive feature and market acceptance for that negative feature as well. So it goes both hand in hand. Okay, if you're in Chula Vista and you're on H Street, wow, I need to find another property on H Street or Hilltop or something that it's a very busy street, to show what is the market difference between a home that's on the interior street versus one on a busy street. Okay. All right. So
makes sense, you guys. Anybody have any questions? You guys are being really quiet, and I know he's getting into depth, and this is good next level type of stuff for you guys to.
It's very high level conversation.
Questions?
I know I'm moving through it because, you know, there's quite a things I want to share. If you have a question, this is your time, really. I mean, you can reach out to me later, but if you have a question, 3 other people probably have the same question. So I encourage anyone to just get out there, and there's no stupid questions, right? No, this is your time. I'm giving
unmute yourselves and just ask away, or drop it in the chat.
Yeah. Forget about the chat. Just ask the question. You won't throw me off. So.
No questions here. I'm just taking in the knowledge.
Sweet, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one I like this is like, to me, this is like the realtor versus appraiser effect, right? Price per square foot. Typically, this is how it's done, right? You have a 2,000 square foot property. The average square foot in this market area is $500. I'm gonna list this home for $1 million. Yes, if it has a pool or maybe they've done a little something extra, you might play around with that price. But typically, this is the way it's done, and I'm not saying this is an incorrect way, right? What I'm trying to get around to this point is when this happens. Well, let me show you my next slide. This is a difference factor, right? You have that seller that goes, oh, my neighbor's property is 200 square feet smaller than mine. And I know the price of square foot is $500 because Zillow told me. And everyone's expecting an adjustment factor of 100,000, right? That's what the math is. It's like $500 a square foot. There's a $200 square foot difference. If you multiply that, it's $100,000. But in actuality, the appraiser is only going to adjust 25 grand for that difference in square footage. And I know people are like, what? Doesn't make sense. The reason why it's only 15, I would say on as a rule of thumb, 15 to 20% of the whatever the price of square foot is going to square footage. So if it's 1,000, 2,000, 300, whatever it is, 15 to 20% is going to the GLA or the square footage of the home. The remainder of it is going to all these things right here. So on the page on the appraisal report, it's called the SCA grid or the sales comparison grid. That's where all the comps are. You have all your adjustment factors. There's 18 to 20 different items on this page. We call that units of comparison, every line item. That is also included in the $500 a square foot, the $1,000 a square foot, whatever that square footage, price per square foot is. We have to take in consideration the location of the property. Right? If you're in an HOA or if you are in a condo, there's common area, there's recreational facilities, amenities, things like that. There's floor location. Let's say your property is a 3-story townhome, right? Are 3-story townhomes selling more than 2-story townhomes in this market area? You have to know those kind of things, right? If you're in a market area where it's a split level home, right? So there's typically 4 levels. There's 4 levels to this property, right? Oops, sorry. I don't know what happened there.
All right. It was a scam, dude. Don't worry about it.
I know. They hit me up all day long. Here's a scenario, perfect scenario where you have to know about floor location. One, let's say you're Rancho Bernardo. Obviously, single story sell more than 2 stories because those are like empty nesters, retirement. No one wants to deal with stairs, right? You have to know those things. Another one I did in El Cajon recently was there's like a 4-level split. The way the home is split was like in 4 different levels, right? And the realtor's having a hard time marketing this property. I go, well, your marketing pool went from like everyone to like literally 30% of the market because if someone has young kids, they don't want to deal with that kind of stairs. If you're a little bit older, you don't want to deal with going up and down 4 different stairs to get to the kitchen, to your bedroom, down to the garage, and you don't want to deal with that. So it's really, you're only marketing to people with maybe kids between 12 and 17, right? Everyone has their own floors. It's real nice. Everyone's kind of young and active. So you have to kind of know those things. And then how does the market treat multi-level properties versus single story and all those different things? That's just floor location. So when it comes to units of comparison, again, the $500 a square foot, $1,000 a square foot are being divided into 18 to 20 different items. That's why we don't only just go, oh yeah, it's going to be $100,000. Because what about the location? What about the lot size? What about the bedroom bathroom count? What about the quality of construction, the design? All those kind of different things are very important. So again, when I said in the beginning, you're setting expectation for your clients, right? So we can't go to listing appointments and just be yes men, yes women, like, okay, yeah, okay, cool, let's just list that. You have to educate your client like, hey, the appraiser is going to look at it like this, right? And this is why it's important to understand the way we adjust, the way we analyze data. We don't have emotion in it, right? Guys, we want your deal to close too. We're all in it together. The lender wants your deal to close. The appraiser wants your deal to close. But the thing is, I can't make up the numbers. I can't fudge them to make them close. I don't have emotion in that. I just lead with data because numbers don't lie, right? You guys are involved because you're like, shit, I want this 3%, on either side or 2.5%, the way, however you structure that. So there's a lot going into that. Your $1 million deal is 30 grand. You know what I mean? So I get there's a lot of emotion and you wanting this to close and you want that listing, but education is very important because setting expectation for either party is super important. Here's another deal when it comes to square footage. I have a friend of mine, she's a realtor, and she was marketing a property at 2180 square feet. Okay, 2180 square feet. In actuality, it was 1945 square feet. Okay, there was some non-permitted areas of the property. Now, here's when this is important. You know, in the MLS, there's an agent preferred like view, and then there's a client preferred view. Okay, so she was listing it. Of course, MLS, they put the client preferred view. On the agent view, you can see that she clearly said there was 235 square feet that was non-permitted. Okay, but it was part of the house. It looked great. Then she ended up representing both sides. So now the buyer, okay, is like, okay, cool, the deal's going fine. And the buyer's like, hold on, this is 1945 square feet and you're marketing it at 2180. You're hiding something from me. And she's like, well, no, I'm not hiding it. I just had it on the client preferred view that you're receiving. You're not seeing all of the things about the property, but the agents that are supposed to be representing you are. So it became this thing where they're like, well, we want to pay for 1945. We don't want to pay for 2180. Okay, so she had this property listed for $2.15 million at 2180 square feet. So the issue is this. And she asked me, Sidney, what do I do here? I go, well, there's three things you need to figure out. You need to know what is the proper value of a home permitted at 2180 square feet. Is it worth 2.15? Let's say it is. Then you need to figure out the home at 1945 square feet. What is that proper value? Let's say it's $1.1 million. Okay, 1.1 million for a 1945 square foot home, 2.15 million for a 2180 square foot home. So it's a difference of $150,000. So what is what we call this contributory value towards the non-permitted space? That's what the expectation that she needed to set both for the seller and the buyer. She's representing both. So the seller is like, well, I want the best deal possible. I want the highest amount, right? It's hard to serve two masters. And the buyer is like, well, I only want to pay for what the home is permitted as. So what we did for her is figuring out, well, what's the value of 235 square feet that's been done in a workmanlike manner, but is non-permitted? Is it worth the 150? Does it cover the gap? And it did not cover the gap, right? So it was about maybe 50% of that, 75,000. So they had to renegotiate everything. Of course, both people are somewhat, pissed off, maybe a little bit on one side, relieved on the other. And they're saying, well, if I resell it, will the next appraiser look at it the same way? Like, there's all of these things that could have been avoided in the beginning if they would have said, well, hey, it's 1945. Remember, setting expectation. Let's see what the home is worth 1945 with the 235 of non-permitted space and not base it on 2180 square feet. Then it would have relieved everyone. Then she would have presented like, hey, just letting you know it's 235 non-permitted, but we got this home appraised, and this is the value based on all this other comp data. Also, when the appraiser comes in for the lender to appraise it, you then establish credibility with the appraiser saying, hey, the permitted property is 1945 square feet. We have it also marketed at 2180, but we got it appraised, and the appraiser saw that the 235 square feet of non-permitted space, there's a value of X amount of dollars. And here's all the comp data they supported that with. Here you go. So then you don't have any issues when Ed calls out the appraiser to go do the appraisal for financing. You don't have any issues when it comes to that. Because what happens is people go, oh, it'll be fine. And then the appraiser comes out and goes, oh, actually, it's not worth, 2.15. It's worth, 2,025,000, and then you're like, what? I thought it's not a permitted 2180 square feet. So this is the importance of getting ahead of the scenario, knowing how appraisers are going to adjust, knowing what the value is of contributory value, because people have like converted garages and all sorts of different things all over town. So you have to know, like, or here's the one thing I get. Hey, Sidney, my client has a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Should they convert their office into a bedroom? And I'll go, well, I don't know. And they go, okay. I'm like, well, what I'm trying to get to you is everything selling right now in the market 4 bedrooms, 2-bath, or are they 3 bedrooms, 2-bath? If they're 4 bedrooms, 2-bath, then yes, convert it, because you're going to be par with the market. But if everything else is the majority of the sales are 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, don't convert it because you're not going to get any value for that 4th bedroom. Keep it as the office and market it as such, right? So even in new construction, guys, like if someone has a 5 bedroom, 3 bath home or a 4 bedroom, 3 bath home with a loft, typically that's based on how many kids they have. If someone has 3 kids, they go with the 5 bedroom. If someone has 2 kids, they go with the 4 bedroom with the loft. We don't know the market effect on that or the reaction to it until the resale of that property, right? Once it's resold, then the market dictates, oh, there's actually no adjustment between the same square footage home, 2,500 square foot home, 5.3, 2,500 square foot home, 4.3 with a loft, because typically the market's going to show, no, there's no difference in value, bedroom or loft. So just because it's new construction or just because it's same bedroom or bedroom difference, don't always expect a market adjustment. It's all depending on what buyer's willing to pay for in that time. Okay.
And
I know I just threw a lot at you, but
you did. It was great. And in regards to square footage, I remember buying my condo downtown, and there was a difference between what the appraiser said I had for square footage and what the tax roll said that was actually built. And I've come across it quite a bit. Can you touch on that since we're talking about square footage, please?
Dana had a question in the chat as well.
Absolutely. Yep. So look, price per square is price per square foot. Okay. If you're spending $1,000 a square foot and the realtor's marketing at $945, you're like, okay, I'm going to spend $945,000 for this condo. No problem. But in actuality, if it's 893 square feet, you're like, okay, I'll pay your $1,000 a square foot, but I'm only paying $893,000. I'm not paying $945,000, right? So all the time downtown, sometimes when builders are building the unit, this is what they're expected to do, but it doesn't end up being that. Okay, so I would advise people to get the property measured prior to, especially downtown, prior to list, because you don't want to deal with that $57,000 difference that now you have to swallow because, well, I'm paying what you're asking for. I'm just not paying for square footage that isn't there. So the appraisers go out and measure in condos, your only interior space that you own. You don't own the outside walls, right? So interior space only. But yeah, it could be a problem, obviously, when you're trying to, measure out a property that is a lot smaller than what is being marketed. So be very careful with that. And I think there's a question in the chat.
Yep. When you walk into a property and it screams flip, was that come into play for a value?
I'm sorry?
When you walk into a property and it screams that it's been flipped, does that come into play on the value of the property?
Apples to apples, oranges to oranges, right? So if a home has been flipped, okay, I only want to look at flipped homes as well. So guys, if you're going to go, let's say you're going to go on a date tonight. You're like, okay, let's go get some Indian, right? I want to get the Indian. You're going to put like best Indian in your part of town. There's probably going to pull up like 10 different options. If you go past 3, there's a problem, right? Or your stomach's going to hurt. So just like keyword searches, we're doing keyword searches on the MLS. If it's a flip, I'm looking at flip property, complete remodel, cosmetic remodel. I'm looking at those properties, right? Because typically a flips are cosmetic remodels. And then I'm looking at the date that it sold and a date that it's listed. So if it's within that 100 days, I know it's a flip. Okay. But what's really important, I had a lender give me a call and go, hey, Sidney, my appraisal came in $100,000 under and it's a flip. I go, wow. I go, well, I goes, what do I do? I go, well, a couple of things. Look at how much it was sold for. No, not how much sold for. How much did they buy it for? Let's say the flipper bought it, the investor bought it for $500,000 90 days ago. Okay. And now the market's continuing to go up. So we're tracking month by month how much the market is increasing. Okay. That's one factor. Okay, cool. Then we're looking at flip homes. What are those selling for? Right. But if the appraiser, okay, is paying attention to what they purchased it for, market price versus market value, that's a problem. Because if market value at the time is $600,000 for that same property, but because they're paying cash, they got it for $500,000, then they should be basing their market increases on $600,000 and not $500,000. There's a difference between market price, guys, and market value. Market value is what most people would pay under normal circumstances, not under duress. Arm's length transaction, market value. Market price is the bloke who said, especially during COVID, I'll pay $300,000 over market, over the appraisal for this property because I want it. That's market price. So the difference is you have to establish market price and market value. Now, there's something called cluster of sales, and there's something called outliers. Okay. The cluster of sales is 945, 930, 925, 915, 975. That's clustered. Then you see a 1.1 and you see a 450. The 450 is an outlier. The 1.1 is an outlier. Now, the 1.1, I may call the realtor and go, hey, this property is in a neighborhood, but sold for 1.1. It sold for 150,000 over anything else. Like, what's so special about this property? Oh, my client paid 150,000 over asking. Okay, perfect. I can use that sale. I just have to discount it 150,000 because that was market price. Now, if it was properly exposed to the market, it would have sold for in that 950 range because they paid 150 over asking, if that makes sense. Okay, so we really want to understand market price, market value, and those kind of things because it makes a huge difference. So when that appraiser calls you, please answer your phone because it's like, for us, it's like we're trying to find information. There's something that doesn't make sense that we're trying to clarify. And you guys help us out clarifying that, by answering the call and going, okay, here's what's going on with that, right? So we'll know based on market evidence, what's been happening, we're tracking the sale. We'll know like there's something going on here that doesn't quite make sense. And this is why we're calling you. And if we can't get enough information from you, we just don't use the comp at all, right? And that's when someone may say, well, on a rebuttal, you didn't use this comp. Well, yeah, maybe I didn't use that comp because, again, it's an outlier and I didn't want to use it because I didn't feel like it was relevant to what's happening in the market. Okay, so it could be outside the subdivision. There could be something that's going on that property that maybe you guys don't know, or you can call that realtor. And one thing I will say is this. I think I have it on here. Let me see right here. Right here. Number 4, don't be thirsty, right? And what I mean by that is this. There's something called the effective date of the appraisal report. Okay, the effective date is the day that we go out and inspect that property. It's extremely important to understand that. Now, here's what I mean by that. Today is Monday the 30th, right? Let's say, one of my teammates call you and go, hey, we want to schedule the appraisal. You're like, cool, come out tomorrow on the 31st. Awesome. We schedule it 9 a.m. on the 31st. And then what happens is we're like, okay, on the 1st, which is Wednesday, a home closes, right? And you're like, hey, Sidney, does a property close on the 1st? I can't use it because I went out on the 31st, and that's the effective date. So if you guys know that a property is going to close, you can say 2 things. Hey, Sidney, you know what? I talked to the realtor, and there's this property that's going to close on Wednesday, and it's going to help my property. I don't want to schedule the appraisal till Thursday. I would be like, cool. But if you're not that comfortable just saying that, just say something else like, hey, you know what? We're not available to schedule the appraisal until Thursday. Perfect. Because on Wednesday, that home on that street or the next street or in that subdivision is going to close and it's going to help your deal, then fine. But again, if we schedule that appraisal on Tuesday and a home closes on Wednesday, I cannot use that unless Ed wants to send me out again and pay me another $500 to come out and reappraise it and go, oh, look at this sale. So I'm not a future teller. I can't tell the future. So guys, create relationships with the realtors in your market, know what's happening. Now, again, you're playing with that contingency period as well. Like, at what point am I coming out? Am I coming out on day 15 where you can't wait? So you have to know those things. Another thing I would say or
That's
add
a huge
is that,
tip, you guys like asterisk right there. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, don't be thirsty.
I'm trying to give you the nuggets here, right? Again, I want this deal to close as well. I want it to close as well, but I can't make things up, okay? So here's another thing. Number 1, 2, and 3, health and safety, CO detector, smoke alarm, water heater straps. Every time I get one of these, I take my team out. We get quite a few. I take them out for drinks. I go, hey, dinner is on me. and really dinner's on you, right? Because here's the thing, you never know who's going to be purchasing that property. It could be an FHA buyer, it could be a VA buyer, okay? And it's not always going to be conventional. So here's what I mean by that. For conventional, it's one per floor, okay? One CO detector, one smoke alarm per floor, okay? If it's FHA VA, you need one smoke alarm in every bedroom and one outside the bedroom. So if the primary bedroom is on the west wing and the other 3 bedrooms are on the east wing, you need one in the primary, one outside the primary. You need one in each of the bedrooms and one outside of the bedrooms on the east wing of the property, okay? Super important, because if I ding you guys on that, right, and it's not me, I'm just following the guideline because it's a health thing, right, then it's going to cost you like $250 or whatever it is, okay? This is why I take my team out. I go, oh, but here's another one, guys. Water heater straps, even if it's housed in that little house, that little, water heater house, it still needs to be double strapped. We live in California. It's all about earthquakes and that thing, being ripped off and you're not home and flooding your property. There's a whole slew of reasons why they want that thing to be double strapped. Okay. When it comes to chipping paint, again, prior to 1978, you're going to need to fix that chipping paint. Okay. Deferred maintenance as well. So the biggest tip I can give you here is go directly to the FHA handbook, 4000.1. You go Control F, put in your keyword search, cracked window. And it'll tell you cracked window, you do not need to repair. If the appraiser calls you out, you go per FHA guideline, 4000.1. It says cracked window. Here's the page. Cracked window is not repaired. They'll remove that. Okay. If it's a broken window, yes, it needs to be repaired. So you have to know those different things without like calling me every time or hey, is this going to pass? Just go on there. FHA handbook 4000.1. Go online, PDF, Control F, keyword the search, or whatever's going on with your property. It'll tell you exactly what you do need to do or what you don't need to do. Okay?
Bernardo,
it's
did
the
you have a
biggest tip I
question?
can give you.
Nope.
Nope. All right. There was a question that popped up. Kareen asked, I thought that the requirements for smoke alarms and CO detectors were all around and not just FHA VA.
Well, here's the thing. Conventional at times will adopt that for FHA, the FHA and VA thing. When it's conventional, one per floor, that's all you need for conventional appraisals. That's it. For FHA and VA, it's also one per floor, obviously, but CO detector per floor, but you also need them in every bedroom. You don't need one in every bedroom when it's a conventional deal.
It's a safe thing to do.
And then if it's a full electric house, you do not need a CO detector, right? Unless it's connected, like let's say it's a condo, if it's above the floor, like above parking, then you may, because the fumes of someone starting their car in your window, you're sleeping, you might want to put one in there, right? But obviously a smoke alarm, you're going to need one in there for sure.
Cool.
Any other questions? I want to show you guys this real quick. Types of appraisal. When life happens, people go to their appraiser. To their realtor, right? I'm getting divorced. I inherited this property. I think my taxes are too high. Whatever it is, like ADUs are huge, super huge right now. I don't know if you guys heard of AB 1033. It dropped last week. AB 1033 is going to allow you to sell your ADU. It'll become a condo, almost like a cloud condo, like you see in La Jolla, Coronado, PB. But you'll be able to sell your ADU, which is crazy. You can build an ADU for $250,000. You'll be able to sell it for 3 times the amount. It's in participating cities. We'll find out in 2024 what those participating cities are. But again, ADU, you'll be able to sell that. That's AB 1033. Whether you like it or not, I'm not trying to get involved in that kind of conversation. But that's the whole thing with housing issues in California. Obviously, a pre-listing appraisal is prior to listing. And then immigration, it's not immigration like, it's like, oh, I'm an American and I'm marrying a Mexican national, I'm marrying a Russian, I'm marrying a someone from France. They want to know your assets, and that's immigration, immigration appraisals, things like that. So I just want to kind of share that. And
Sidney, you do hold separate classes on ADUs, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do a lot about ADUs. Matter of fact, I will be hosting and being on a panel on a conversation in regards to I don't know if you guys have heard the suit that's happening with NAR and a lot of like the bigger real estate outfits in regards to the sellers commissions.
Mhm.
You guys heard about this?
Of
They're
course.
trying to get rid of the buyer commission. So if you're a buyer's agent, this is going to be on November 8th. Let me pull up the calendar here. It will be November 8th at New Venture Escrow Office in Mission Valley. And we're going to be talking about Wednesday. We're going to have an attorney, real estate attorney, investor, myself, realtor. We're talking about, because in Australia, that's the way it is. They don't pay buyer commissions. So there's an issue with buyer commissions. They're saying, oh, the buyers are not saying they want to pay them, or they do. It's a whole thing. It's just brand new. I think eventually it's going to happen, guys. It may take years of litigation and things of that nature, but this is the way I think the market is moving towards. So if you guys are interested in hearing about that, stay tuned. November 8th, New Venture Escrow. I believe it's 5 to 7. But I'll let Ed know and he can refer
Yeah, I'll
that
share
information
that
to
on
you
the page
guys.
with everybody. Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
So here's a fun one. Scarcity. I kind of want you guys open it up to you guys. When it comes to scarcity, what does that mean to you guys? Scarcity, tomato. What is that? What do you guys get from that?
I would personally say, like, to me, scarcity, there's like a property in Alpine that doesn't, and the whole region doesn't share like turn over that often, so it's really hard to find like this particular type of property.
Okay. Anyone else?
Not enough.
Yep.
I like that, Ed. I mean,
Not enough
that's
for demand.
one scarcity, right? Like some markets, some markets are they have a high turnover ratio. Let's say like the college area, right? That's a high turnover ratio, meaning there's a lot of sales that are happening in that market. And in a property like Ramona, maybe there isn't a lot of sales. There's a sale every couple of months. So your specific property, there might not be a sale for 18 months. And you're like, well, what do I do then? You know,
we just did one in Valley Center that had like 6 acres of land, and it was very hard to find a comp around there because they don't sell as much.
Exactly. So the conversation around scarcity is super important because at the end of the day, it's how do we treat that data? You know, like how do we pull our comps? What's available? What's happening in the market? Even in, let's say, Coronado. You know, Coronado, is a unique market because it has properties are priced at $1,000 a square foot, $2,000 a square foot, $3,500 a square foot. And they'll let those properties sit for 3 years, 5 years, doesn't matter. They're waiting for that specific buyer, right? It's creating scarcity because there's not much of it or like it. And so when you guys have that, especially in a market like we're in right now, maybe there's not a lot of comp data, really pay attention to scarcity and how that affects your market, whether it's a positive influence, because, hey, there's nothing else like it. This is the cream of the crop. Or there just hasn't been a lot of sales in the market area as well, right? So it's an interesting word. I just wanted to put that on there because I felt like it would kind of make you guys start thinking about these kind of, we're in this real estate market where there's not a lot of inventory, and there's a scarcity of sales too, because there's not a lot of inventory. It's not like during the COVID market where things were flying off we're just flying off the market left and right. So it's just something to think about. I thought I wanted to add that for you guys and just kind of bring some thought process behind that scarcity. And then, oh, there he goes. This is me. Anyone who's on the IG and you guys, I do a lot of videos on Instagram. I just love it. I think it's a good platform. I'll go to a property and I go, oh, and I'll talk about how this may not pass FHA inspection, and why it won't pass FHA inspection. So I do a lot like right there. I would say, although Ed is a lender and I've known Ed for years and we work together, I don't do a lot of lending jobs because, like right now, especially the rates are not very good. There's, it's like, I can't depend on that. So when I was I've been doing appraising for about 20 years now. This is my 20th year, going to 21. And in 2008, when the market crashed, so did my business. So I do a lot of what I call non-lender work. We do a lot with ADUs. We do pro formas with developers trying to put up multifamilies. So the thing is why I'm sharing this is, I think what your clients are looking for are the ability for you to manage their portfolio, right? I think the statistic I heard was 88% of people do not reuse their realtor. 88% of people are not reusing their realtor. That's a big number. That means only 12% of people are reusing their realtor. Now, why is that? I don't know. Maybe, people, it's October, so everyone's dropping off a pumpkin at someone's house. That's great. I think it's awesome. I think it's, if that's your thing. But if you look at your clients as not a transaction, but as a portfolio that you're managing, I think that you'll find that there's a lot more that they start utilizing. They depend on you to create the value, that to create their value, right? So that's what I want to leave you with is in regards to that. Like, we're all a team. We're all on, we're all on team trying to for this property to close. But I think it's super important that, I want you guys to understand that the appraisers are not there to debunk value. I think that's the biggest misconception is that appraisers are there to debunk value, and we're not. I think appraisers are solely there to look. If there's a price tag of $1.2 million, the question that we're asking is there enough market data to support that $1.2 million? That's the question I'm asking every day. And if there is, perfect. Because there's times where I'm like, oh, that lender, or that a realtor left money on the table. You know what I mean? Because I can see that, oh, there's plenty of data. And my appraisal is not based on a number. I'm not trying to hit a number. And so whether it's going to be supportive by the contract price or whether, it's not, is not dependent on typically on myself. It's dependent on the data that the market has. So I want to leave you guys with that is make it more about what's out there in the market versus with data versus emotion. Let's take the emotion out of it. Cause I think your clients are already emotionally involved. No one loves their home more than the seller. They think their home is the greatest. Right. And then the market, which is the buyers, will dictate, yeah, your home's all right. And this is what I'm willing to pay for that home. Right. And so I think if we kind of land on that, hopefully we can.
And there he goes. Well, thank you, Sidney. There he is. All right. Hey, man, we lost you there for a second.
Any questions?
No, man, that was awesome, man. As always, I always get something out of every single time I get to speak to you. You're just a wealth of knowledge, and truly appreciate you taking the time coming out and hanging out with us today and going through all this and teaching us all a little bit more about, the ins and outs of what's going on behind the scenes, man, and how you guys do your job and how it impacts all of us. And hopefully everybody on the call, there's a good 21 of us. So hopefully you guys all got some tidbits and can go into your listing presentations that much stronger going forward. Come armed with information, know what properties are being sold around you, get in touch with those other agents, see when they're closing. That's huge. That's just that little tidbit, right? Like if you have something closing like in the next week, don't order your appraisal. Don't have them come out until that thing closes. If you know it's going to be closing for a higher amount, because that's going to help justify that value. We're all in it together.
And on the flip side, hey, on the flip side, if you know that property that's going to close is not going to help your property,
get them out there.
get it scheduled ASAP, right? So get ahead of that as well. So I think those are important things. And look, if you meet the appraiser at the property and you're like, hey, I know this is outside your guideline and da 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 da, and this is why I'm utilizing this data. At least the appraiser knows, okay, this is not just another assignment. I know that they understand my guidelines. Let me really pay attention to this file. So you're just not another order that we have to get through, So I think it works positively on either side. Just knowing that, hey, I understand this is what's going on. This is why I went outside of a mile for this comp, because my property has all of these kind of features. And, the only properties that feature that were 1.3 miles away, but you can see that the neighborhoods are still very similar. I also did an analysis on, the values in neighborhood A, neighborhood B. So you guys have to nerd out. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, if this is your profession, really get into it, because it's going to make you be better and look better to not only myself or my peers, but your clients as well, right? So
it's huge. It's huge. Come prepared. Go to those meetings. Have you heard him say that? What, a half a dozen times now? Go and meet the appraiser. Like, provide them with the comps that you want him to see. Like, kind of feed them that information, like, up front. That's going to only help everybody in the transaction. So, dude, thank you so much, man. And hopefully, hey, maybe next semester we're doing Movement Mondays on a semester basis. So we're going through the fall now. In the springtime, maybe we can do an ADU class.
Yeah, let's do ADU. By that time, I'll have way more information about AB 1033 as well, the pros, the cons. Maybe I'll do like an ADU / SB9 thing. That'd
be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll let you guys know about November 8th at New Venture Escrow, Mission Valley. Yeah. I'll send the flyer your way.
Yeah, forward it to me and I'll make sure I'll distribute it to everybody.
Sounds perfect. Awesome.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a productive week. Have an awesome week. Sidney, you're the best. Thank you so much, my friend. I'll see you all soon. Take care.
Appreciate you, Ed.
Cheers, mate.